Vice Mayor?
Okay. Yes, Councilor Somerville.
I just want to comment and thank all the agencies that put in time and effort from the state, the community organizations, local government, law enforcement, etc. It's really a community and a statewide effort, and there's so much that needs to be done in this realm, and I know how hard they work, and I just want to thank them for their efforts and their advocacy.
Could not agree more. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to public hearing. City Clerk, could you please read the announcement for our first public hearing this evening?
Thank you, Mayor. Notice is hereby given that on the 7th day of March 2022, an application was received in the office of the City Clerk for a renewal of Bar and Grill license number BG11 for 11T Billion LLC, doing business as Lovejoy's Bar and Grill, located at 101 East Grand Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming, 82070. Public hearing to hear comments and protests relative to this license application will be held Tuesday, April 19th. Mayor, I believe that the wrong notice is attached here. Let me pull the correct notice. I apologize. My apologies, Vice Mayor. Okay, let's start that again here. Notice is hereby given that on the 7th day of March 2022, an application was received in the office of the City Clerk for a new bar and grill liquor license number BG11 for 11T Billion LLC, doing business as Lovejoy's Bar and Grill, 101 East Grand Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Public hearing to hear comments or protests relative to this license application will be held Tuesday, April 5th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom meeting ID number 899-3034-7958, passcode 481524. Action on this application will be considered at the regular meeting of the City Council on Tuesday, April 5th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. in Council Chambers. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, City Clerk. Do we have any comments from the public regarding this public hearing? Give it a few minutes for folks to raise their hand. Okay, I don't see any. City Clerk, can you move on to our next public hearing?
Thank you, Mayor. Notice is hereby given that a public meeting of the Laramie City Council will be held at 6:30 p.m. April 5th, 2022 in the City Council Chambers, Laramie City Hall, 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Due to COVID restrictions, meetings will be held on Zoom to take public comments on the following. Original Ordinance number 2043, amending various sections of Title 15.10 of Laramie Municipal Code regarding permitting family child care centers and Type 2 child care homes. All applications, plans, and specifications relative to these matters are available for review at the City of Laramie Planning Office at 405 Grand Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be heard should be present via Zoom. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments regarding this public hearing? I don't see any. We'll go ahead and close that public hearing. And we have one more public hearing this evening. So City Clerk, could you read the announcement, please?
Notice is hereby given that a public meeting of the Laramie City Council will be held at 6:30 p.m. on April 5th, 2022 in City Council Chambers, Laramie City Hall, 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Due to COVID restrictions, meetings will only be held on Zoom to take public comments on the following. Original Ordinance number 2044, amending various sections of Title 15.10, 15.12, and 15.14 of Laramie Municipal Code regarding R1, LR, and RR zoning districts, dimensional standards, and accessory dwelling units. All applications, plans, and specifications relative to these matters are available for review at the City of Laramie Planning Office at 405 Grand Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be heard should be present via Zoom.
Great, thank you, City Clerk. It looks like we've got a comment this evening. Mr. Glass, could you? Great, you have the floor.
Honorable Vice Mayor Pierce and members of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. Council should think very seriously before passing this ordinance or one like it, and here's why. Zoning, if anything, is a promise that a neighborhood will be developed in a certain way. The 1 in R1 means single family. The L in LR means low density, and the first R in RR means rural, meaning the neighborhood should have a rural character. Now, I'd be the first to tell you that I think the UDC is too picky and too strict when it comes to some aspect of development, but even before we had the UDC, we had these same zoning designations, and they meant something, and they should continue to mean something, because people invested their life savings in their homes with the expectation that the character of the neighborhood would stay pretty much the same. Now, a few accessory dwelling units won't change the character of a neighborhood, but requiring that they all be set up to be rentals, or decreasing minimum lot sizes, or eliminating garages will, and it won't do it for the better. Requiring separate metering for accessory dwellings would also raise costs needlessly, even if those units are used as rentals, because meter fees are $20 per month and poised to increase. Giving a big gift to our out-of-state power company is not the way to create affordable housing. In any event, it seems to me that the idea that single-family zoning is somehow evil or wrong is sort of spiteful. It seems as if people who are temporarily priced out by a housing bubble want to spoil the desirable neighborhoods that, due to inflation in which housing prices happen to be leading wages, almost want to get even with those who are just happen to be lucky enough to be there earlier. And I don't think we should be making city policy based on feelings of spite. Now, let's address the question of what would happen if this ordinance passes as is. Firstly, housing won't get more affordable. Garages are the cheapest part of a home, as is the raw land of the lot, so developers and builders will absorb any cost savings. But neighborhoods will become unsightly due to the lack of storage, children will be endangered by increased traffic, constituents' existing homes will lose value, impacting our tax base, and all new housing developments will have covenants and HOAs. Even existing neighborhoods may try to form HOAs. Now, HOAs and HOA fees drive up the cost of housing by hundreds or thousands of dollars per year. They're like a property tax, and taxes are already rising due to the increase in the value of the housing. So if we pass this, we'll actually be making things less affordable in that way also. We'll be striking a blow against Laramie desirability as a place to live, against affordable housing, against quality of life, and worst of all, we'll be eroding people's trust in government because we'll be breaking the promise that we made when we zoned the neighborhoods in a particular way. So I therefore ask you not to pass this ordinance as is. If you want to create denser zones, please consider creating new ones that can be applied to new development without changing the existing ones, so that the city can keep its promise to existing residents while it experiments with this unproven policy idea about making housing denser. And if you want to make housing more affordable, please consider working to raise wages rather than just trying to let builders cut corners, because this won't work. Experience has shown that the savings won't reach those who really need affordable housing. Anyway, that's what I have to say tonight. Thank you very much. I won't be here for the remainder of the meeting, so I hope you'll consider these remarks as you consider what to do with the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glass. Anybody else regarding this particular public hearing? Do you have a comment out in our attendees room? I don't see anybody, so thank you, and we'll close this public hearing. At this time, we are on item number 6C on our agenda, and I'd like to move to our Assistant City Manager for announcements.
Honorable Vice Mayor, City Council, Honorable Mayor, City Council, thanks for this opportunity. Tonight, I just wanted to speak to everybody real quick about Freedom Has a Birthday and Fire in the Sky, which is happening on the 4th of July. So we've got an action-packed 4th of July, but as you may have read in the Boomerang last Thursday, the Freedom Has a Birthday is going to be presented by Rocky Mountain Power this year. And we still need other community support and have picked up a few sponsors like Stage Point, Centennial Woods, Sampson Construction, and we're working on others as it goes. But we're super excited to bring that event back and to have it in this community. In years past, we've hosted upwards of 10,000 people in Washington Park on that day, and I hope to see that many again. And we're certainly looking forward to seeing all you counselors out there that day with me, moving people around and getting tables set up for them as we go. So the other one is Fire in the Sky, which will happen about 9 p.m. on the 4th of July, weather permitting, is the fireworks show. And with the support of Wyotech, we'll be able to make, as I'm told by our contractor, an incredible 20-minute show, which is about 4 minutes longer than past shows. And it's got the term incredible in there, which I believe to be a fantastic thing. So just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that and let you know that we've got some good support from our community, and we're excited to be back in front of our community with those two events. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So let's move to item number 7, disclosure by city council members. Do we have any disclosures this evening? Okay, I don't see any. So I'd like to call on Councilor Schuster, Acting Vice Mayor, Councilor Schuster, for our item number 8.
Thank you. I make a motion that the consent agenda be approved and that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Do I have a second? Second. Great, second by Councilor Cumby. City Clerk, can we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Humby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent, O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver, absent. That's 7 yeses, 0 nos, and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Great, thank you. Let's move to item number 11. I'll go to Councilor Cumby.
Thank you. So just asking advice, I read the motion and then I come in and read a motion for postponement. Okay. I move that Laramie City Council approve original ordinance number 2041, amending LMC
Councilor Cumby, we can't hear you.
Sorry,
Just
I went
at
into
chapter.
You went back to mute.
Okay. Original ordinance number 2041, amending LMC chapter bicycles to update language to reflect current device uses on second reading.
Second.
Thank you. Second by Councilor Somerville.
Honorable Mayor, if I could, we're asking for a postponement today, simply due to staff workload, and more importantly, probably my workload. But I just haven't had the time to take all the comments and pull them together, get them reviewed by other staff, and make sure that we bring something that really meets the intent of the Traffic Safety Commissioner, which I apologize for that change in the agenda item. But we are looking for a postponement to give me some more time to continue to work on the comments and to make this as well-rounded of an ordinance change as we can. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Counselor Cumby?
Yes. I move to postpone the second reading of original ordinance number 2041 to May 17th, 2022.
Second.
Thank you. Seconded by Counselor Somerville. And can we go to a vote, please?
Cumby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent, O'Doherty,
yes,
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver, absent. That's 7 yeses, 0 nos, and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 12, Counselor Schmeckel.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I move to approve the First Amendment to Loan Agreement CW 183 for the Wastewater Treatment Plant Upgrades Project and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Thank you. Second by Counselor Somerville. Looks like we have our Public Works Director, Brooks Webb, available.
Yeah, Honorable Mayor, City Council, on October 15th, 2019, City Council authorized the submittal of a Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan application for the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project. On February 6, 2020, the State Loan and Investment Board approved the loan application for $9.5 million with a 30-year term. $1.9 million was awarded at the green funding interest rate, which is 0%, while the remaining $7.6 million was awarded at the standard 2.5% interest rate. At the time of the closing of the loan, the city qualified for 25% principal forgiveness, but the Clean Water SRF program did not have any principal forgiveness available at the time. In the summer of 2021, the State Loan and Investment Board amended their rules to establish a reduced tiered interest rate for when the requested principal forgiveness is not available. Simply stated, the rule says that an entity that qualifies for 25% principal forgiveness is eligible to receive a reduced interest rate of 1.25% when no principal forgiveness is available. So hoping to take advantage of the new interest rate structure, we sent a letter to the Office of State Lands and Investments requesting the reduced interest rate from 2.5% to 1.25% on the $7.6 million portion of the loan. The item was placed on the State Loan and Investment Board agenda and was approved at their February 3rd, 2022 meeting. This change to the loan will result in an approximate savings to the wastewater fund of $1.65 million over the life of the loan. The changes to the loan agreement require an amendment and must be approved by the City Council, signed by the mayor, and attested by the city clerk. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Do we have any council members with questions? Okay, thanks so much, Brooks. Any members of the public have a question on this item? I don't see any. Can we go to a roll call vote, please, City Clerk?
Cumby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent, O'Doherty, O'Doherty, does she appear frozen to you, Vice Mayor?
it's *6, the mute and unmute on my phone.
Yes, you got it.
Okay, so yes is my answer. I'm just gonna stick with the phone.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver, absent. That's 7 yeses, 0 nos, and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. That item passes. Item number 13.
Thank you again, Acting Mayor. I move to award the bid for the wastewater treatment plant project construction to Stanek Constructors Incorporated in the amount of $7,379,600, along with contingency of $1,106,940 for a total amount not to exceed $8,486,540, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Second by Counselor Schuster. Thank you. Public Works Director Brooks.
Yeah, Honorable Mayor, City Council. So the wastewater treatment plant project involves the removal and replacement of the existing oxidation ditch blowers and piping, the conversion of the existing aerobic digesters to aerated sludge holding tanks, removal and replacement of the existing digester blowers, a new blower building, and multiple improvements to site, civil, mechanical, electrical, instrumentation, and controls. Most of this equipment is reaching the end of its useful life, which is why we began the project in the first place. It quickly evolved into a huge energy savings opportunity through the Honeywell study and additional work with Tetra Tech, our design engineer. We expect an estimated electrical demand reduction of over 33% and an electrical usage reduction of over 22%. Currently, the electrical charges at the plant are approximately $30,000 a month, so these reductions are substantial from a financial standpoint. In addition, Rocky Mountain Power is reviewing the plans and may have additional financial savings for the city through their Energy Savings Initiative program. The project was advertised for bid according to the city's purchasing policies and state revolving fund loan requirements. 4 bids were received and opened by the city clerk on March 1st. Bids were reviewed by the city, Tetra Tech, and DEQ staff. All parties agree Stanek Constructors is the lowest qualified bidder. And so we are recommending Stanek Constructors Incorporated be awarded the construction contract for the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thanks, Mr. Webb. Do I have any council members with questions on this item? Counselor O'Doherty.
I went out to the treatment plant with the city clerk and the youth council members, and they're doing a really wonderful job, but I can see it's a big energy user, so this is a great opportunity to bring our energy use down. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council comments? Counselor Somerville.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just want to add a comment to the public and to Brooks and his staff that even though this sounds very technical and many people have no idea what all of those things that he just described, including myself, all of those very important parts, how important it is for the city to continue to make these investments in this type of infrastructure and how critical it is to city operations. I don't want anybody to think we're just making a fancy treatment plant to make one. When the treatment plant doesn't work, it's not a good day. So thank you, Brooks, for your diligent work on this.
Absolutely. Any other council questions or comments? Seeing none, let's go to the public. Any comments from the public on this item? I don't see any. City Clerk, can we have a vote, please?
Humby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent. O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver, absent. That's 7 yeses, 0 nos, and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. And that item passes. Moving to item number 14, Councilor Schmeckel, one more time.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I move to approve Amendment Number 1 to the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project design professional services agreement with Tetra Tech to conduct construction services in the amount of $752,741, along with a contingency of $75,274.10, for a total amount not to exceed $828,015.10, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Second by Counselor O'Doherty. Thank you. Any questions or comments by council members? Oh, sorry. Let's go to our Public Works Director, Brooks Webb.
That's okay, Mayor, City Council. As is standard, when we have large projects going out, we normally recommend construction management services from the design engineer company. The construction management services that Tetra Tech will provide will ensure that this project meets all the requirements set by the city and by the State Loan and Investment Board.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mr. Webb. Any comments or questions by city council members? Seeing none, how about members of the public? Are there any comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, let's go to a roll call vote. City Clerk?
Humby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington. O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver. Absent, that's 7 yeses, 0 nos, and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Great, thank you. Let's move to item number 15, and that will be Counselor Schuster.
Thank you much. The title is Resolution Number 2022-23, authorizing the award of $210,645 in the Community Partners Funding contingent on the adoption of the fiscal year 2022-23 budget and on the availability of funds. I move that the council approve Resolution 2023 awarding $210,645 in the fiscal year 2022-2023 community partner funds in accordance with the amounts listed in the resolution and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Second.
Second by Counselor Gabriel.
You got 3 of them that time. You did good.
I know, lucky gal here tonight. So I see that we've got City Manager Jordan, and she's not available this evening. So I'm wondering if our Assistant City Manager has any, City Clerk, thank you, sorry.
You're okay, Vice Mayor. I was going to let Todd take this if you wanted him to, so. So.
Either one of you, go for it.
Vice Mayor, thank you. So as you remember, Council, we met back in March in a joint meeting with the County Commissioners to receive presentations from the community partners who requested funding for this year. The resolution in front of you are the results from the presentations. There is a rounding that has to occur for the issuance of the checks, and that's why it's $210,645 versus the $210,634 that you had previously seen. With that, Vice Mayor, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Great, do we have any questions or comments by council members? I don't see any. How about members of the public? Are there any comments from members of the public? Boy, I don't see any. So thank you. I guess we'll just go to a vote on this item.
Humby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent. O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver, absent. That's 7 yeses, 0 nos, and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Great, thank you. Let's move to item number 16, Counselor Cumby.
Thank you.
I move that City Council approve the application for a new bar and grill liquor license number BG-11 to 11 Billion LLC doing business as Lovejoy's Bar and Grill, 101 Grand Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming, for the licensing term April 10, 2022 through May 7, 2022, contingent upon the sale and relinquishment of RS Development LLC Bar and Grill liquor license BG-5 and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
I heard Councilor Schuster first, so seconded by Councilor Schuster. City clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. The item before you tonight is an application for a new bar and grill liquor license. Under state statute, when a when an entity wants to acquire a license that was previously held by another entity, they do need to submit an application for a new license. It's one of the few that cannot be transferred by state statute. So before you today is an application for 11 Billion. This is under Justin Taylor, one of the owners, a new owners of 11 Billion LLC. He was a previous employee of RS Development and has been with them for years, and so he feels well equipped to take over Lovejoy's Bar and Grill. They are planning to close on April 10th, which is why we've noted in your motion tonight that the license will not take effect until April 10th, and then will expire on May 7th with the rest of the licenses. We will have a renewal application before you in 2 weeks, since we are right in that renewal period right now for our liquor licenses. But with that, I don't see that Justin Taylor was able to join us this evening, but if you have any questions, Mayor and Council, I'd be happy to answer those.
Great, thank you. Do we have any council members with questions? Okay, seeing none, any comments or questions from members of the public, please? I don't see any, so let's just go to a vote.
Cumbie,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent. O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver, absent. That's 7 yeses, 0 nos, and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Great, thank you. That item passes. Item number 17, Councilor Schmeckel.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I move to approve Resolution 2022-24A, renewal of the general purpose optional 1% county sales tax, fifth penny, in Albany County, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Do I
Second.
have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Gabriel. Thank you. It's Councilor Schmeckel.
Would you like me to? Okay, perfect. I move to postpone the resolution here until April 19th so that we can get more clarifying information.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments regarding the postponement? Okay, thanks. Any comments from the Councilor Somerville?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just for the edification of the public, just some questions regarding the legal requirements in terms of 50% of municipalities that we would like to have answered by the city attorney prior to having a vote on this item.
Great, thank you for the clarity. Any other comments by council members regarding the postponement? Okay, members of the public, I see our county clerk is here. If she has a comment, that'd be fine. Okay, seeing none, let's go to a vote, please.
Cumby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent, O'Doherty. Sorry, O'Doherty,
Yes. Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver, absent. That's 7 yeses, 0 nos, and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Great, so that item passes. On to item number 18. Counselor O'Doherty, sorry.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry. Well, my internet's down, so could someone else read this? Thank you.
Counselor Somerville or Cumby, does anybody have it up?
I do. Vice Mayor?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I move to approve original ordinance number 2042 on third and final reading, amending Laramie Municipal Code, Chapter 2.04 to adjust ward boundaries to have nearly equal proportions after the 2020 census and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Was that Counselor Schuster for the second?
Yes.
Thank you, Counselor Schuster for the second. All right, any comments or questions by council members? I should apologize. City Clerk, do you want to add any comments to this?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just add that on March 29th, the City Council amended Ordinance 2042 to reflect what is before you tonight, MAP 1G. The legal language has been drafted, so at this time we are feeling confident that this is ready to move forward to final reading. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Great, thanks. I see Counselor Gabriel has a comment or a question.
Yeah, thanks, Acting Mayor. I was just curious if all of our questions or concerns from the county clerk had been answered and everything looks to be in good order, because I saw some emails earlier that were circulating. It looks like everything's okay, but I just wanted to clarify that, make sure that things were on the up and up.
Okay, great. I see our county clerk, Jackie Gonzalez, is available and in the room. So, Jackie, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chairperson. At this time, the only comments that we offered were comments regarding the ward naming. And we would hope that you would consider the comments that we have, that words or names would cause precinct identifiers within our WildRed system. And we would hope that you would consider just naming the wards, wards 1, wards 2, and ward 3.
Great, thank you. Any comments or questions from council members? Councilor O'Doherty.
I oppose this map, as you know, because I don't like splitting the west side and West Laramie, but this map at least takes into account the problems where people were in such small precincts that their vote could be, might be too obvious. And I also think that we should stick with the clerk's naming convention because it's the smartest in the state. I've looked at all the precincts in the state, and ours is the easiest to understand, our precinct naming, thanks to our county clerk. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor O'Doherty. Any other questions? Or Councilor Somerville?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just a few comments in general on the process. I feel like the city council really needed one more meeting to hone in on a good map. Although I certainly support the map, I don't think that it's the best map that we could have. And I feel like unfortunately we were pushed into doing this basically over 2 weeks in a hurry because of a lot of factors that are out of our control, state legislature, state timing, etc. And if I had a wish, it would be for a week's postponement to see if we can make this a little bit better. I have continued to receive some comments, some good, some not favorable to the map that we made, and I think unfortunately the timing in this process has just not allowed us to do a good job, and we've not had good public input until the last 2 weeks or so. So I will just share my frustrations. I also want to share the accolades of all the hard work that has gone in from Councilor Doherty and the city clerk and the county clerk's office, city GIS staff. I know there's a lot of hours behind the scenes, but I wish we had one more meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Somerville. Are there any comments by other council members? Okay. Any members of the public wanting to comment on this item? Seeing none. I do have a question for city clerk and potentially our county clerk. If we postponed for a week, how badly does that mess up your timeline?
Vice Mayor, I obviously cannot speak for the county clerk and the timelines that they're up against with publication. As far as city staff, we are missing our city attorney for the legal drafting of the description. So if the council were to change maps, we would need his assistance in drafting that language. From the city clerk's office, that's kind of some of the challenges that I'm seeing here with starting on a new map again.
Okay, great. Any comments from our county clerk regarding a potential postponement for a week?
Thank you, Vice Mayor, for the question. Certainly the legal description that we have to provide for both the party chairs and the newspaper will be submitted to the newspaper actually the end of next week. And so the timeline for us is more so knowing what the ward boundaries are going to be when we send notification out to all electors. And that must be done within 5 days after the Board of County Commissioners approve our resolution. That will go before the Board of County Commissioners on May 3rd. And so certainly want to respect the timeline and the consideration. Certainly it's up to the council to decide what it is that they'd like to do. What you do will not affect my legal reporting at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So if there is a motion, okay, seeing none. So let's go to the vote.
Cumbie,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent, O'Doherty,
Hear me now?
sorry. Yep, we can hear you now.
No. So no,
Schmeckel.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver, absent. That's 6 yeses, 1 no, and 2 absents, Your Honor.
Okay, thanks. So item number 19, let's go to Counselor Gabriel.
Thanks, Acting Mayor. This is item number 19. I would move that the Laramie City Council approve Resolution 2022-25, amending the Laramie Parks and Recreation Master Fee Schedule, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Second by Counselor Cumby. Thank you. Any,
Honorable Mayor, City Council. I'm going to introduce this item before I turn it over to Jody, but as you recall, we've been working on some changes up at the Recreation Center to try to improve how people access the facility and make it a little bit simpler. I'm super excited about what we brought forward today as far as the master fee is concerned, and without anything being said, any further ado, I'll pass it along to Jody.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. To the city clerk, did you receive the little document that I had sent with the membership fees that was simplified? Great, thank you so much. You've got a couple of documents before you tonight. One is our master fee schedule in the format that I normally bring it to you, with all the old stuff plus the new stuff. And it essentially is a tracking document so that you can see what we're changing and by how much. This that you're seeing before you right now is a simplified version of what we are moving towards and what I'm requesting you, I should say the bulk of what I'm requesting your approval for tonight. The memberships were reviewed when we did the BRS study, which we presented to you a couple of weeks ago. And this is a component of the improvements that we're making. This one in particular is kind of a big one in terms of changing the structure and making it a friendlier approach to the recreation center, having a membership there. The big things are you'll have 2 essential options. You'll be able to be a member of the recreation center at an individual level or as a family. And then you can set your term either as an annual rate or a monthly rate. The annual rate is a paid in full membership that provides you with 2 free months of membership over paying on a monthly basis. And the monthly basis fee allows you to start and stop your membership as you need. The projections that BRS made for us indicate that these membership fees shouldn't change significantly the income. What we're hoping, though, is that by focusing on improving our friendliness to the public and the structure around our rates, it will improve our membership numbers, and so that more people will find it appealing and interesting to become a member. So that's what you see before you tonight. There's a couple of important pieces on daily admissions and memberships both. You'll see that youth and senior rates are the same. And I think this will be appealing in particular when you have like parents or grandparents bringing grandkids in. Maybe they didn't anticipate that they were paying a fee, a daily fee, and it turns out that it's fairly affordable despite that. We are in the process of setting the structure up that would enable these fees to be implemented. And I'll tell you, it's kind of a lot of work. We think that we'll be able to implement the membership fees for new members beginning on June 1, and that members who are currently in an existing membership, if they wish to cancel and move into a new type of membership, they can do that. Or their membership will expire at its normal expiration date, and then we will implement the new fees going forward. That'll enable us to have some grace period as we move people into the new memberships. A couple of other notable things on the master fee schedule that you're going to see is that we are going to be moving towards peak and non-peak pricing for rentals in our rentable spaces like the multi-purpose room and some of our studios. We haven't set the peak and non-peak hours just yet, but we anticipate looking back at our rental history and identifying those times when we typically don't have rentals. That way we can hopefully encourage some of our community organizations that would, like to access a lower fee to do so at those times. That's the bulk of our fee changes. There's a couple of other associated things that'll go along with this that are more internal application. In particular, if you are a member of the Recreation Center, you will have access to our activities like swim lessons or other things that you have to register for earlier than non-members. We won't continue the practice of applying a discount if you're a member. It will just go to one price, but you'll have access. And in particular, this will provide a benefit to members because oftentimes our classes are full. So that's what you see before you tonight, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Honorable Mayor, before we turn it away from Jody, could you explain cancellation and one of the changes that we're making there?
So currently our memberships are set up so that if you are an annual member, there's kind of a penalty if you cancel early. If you cancel early, it has to be for extenuating circumstances that are out of your control. And then you're able to recoup potentially half of your outstanding membership. So for instance, you may be paying on a monthly basis, but be in an annual membership, and you may want to cancel because of, I don't know, maybe you're not using it or something of that nature that's not uncontrollable or extenuating, but you just want to cancel it. There's a penalty essentially associated with that. With this new structure, what it'll enable us to do is you'll be able to sign up for a month. It will be a continuing membership. You have to cancel it. In other words, it's sort of like signing up for cable. You don't sign up for 1 month of cable and they cancel it. You sign up and then it continues until you say, please stop. But there's no penalty. And if you sign up for an annual membership and you pay for that total amount and then you decide you have to cancel for some reason, we'll refund it, but we will refund it at a prorated monthly rate. In other words, if you've completed 4 months, we'll credit you for 4 months at the monthly rate and refund the remainder. So we're hoping that this will be a little easier in, easier out for most community members. It's something that most of the marketplace for retail sales, for things such as cable or other subscription-based services have gone to. And we think this is more accommodating and will be more appealing, frankly, to a large number of our community members. One other thing, too, I guess I should note, families in the family memberships, we're changing our structure from a family, including 6 potentially unrelated people living in a household, to a more traditional structure where you have 2 adults, 2 children, and then you can add additional children at an additional fee. That was a result of the demographic survey that they had presented. Most of our community are not large families, and the perception was that our family structure was, how do I put it? They weren't getting enough value. If they didn't have a big family, it was a waste of resources. With this structure, we have a family of 4. They can add additional members, or we have an adult and youth. You can add an additional youth at that same price. So if you're a single parent with 2 children, you can add an additional child at that $70 or $7 per month rate. So that's kind of our plan moving forward.
Great, thanks, Jody. Any questions for either Jody or Todd? Counselor Somerville.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I guess my question is on the family memberships. I have some concern about moving that down to 4, especially if we're not dealing with a lot of families that are large families. But we want those families to come to the rec center, and I don't want to disincentivize them from doing that and providing that opportunity. Could you tell me or remind me, because I'm not recalling from the presentation, what is the revenue loss or increase by changing this to 4 instead of 6? Overall, what are you guys projecting?
honestly, I don't recall if we actually did an analysis for the difference between a family of 4 versus family of 6. It's kind of hard to extrapolate from our data how many families have more than 6 people in them, but I believe it's very few based on the number of additional fees. Typically what you see is a family will sign up and they'll add everybody who might possibly come, even though they're not regular users of the facility. And it has ended up just, our current structure, as I said, is non-related people living in a household qualify as well. This is limited to 2 adults and 2 children. So it's not intended to be, kind of a structure where it's 4 college kids living in the same house. So it's kind of hard to do the analysis. One other thing I want to mention is our structure that we're setting up to accommodate scholarships. We are looking to see if there is a current entity in town, like say for instance, Department of Family Services may have levels for which they issue SNAP benefits. We're hoping that what we can do is, instead of having to look at people's pay stubs to evaluate whether or not they qualify for a needs-based discount, that we can say, okay, if you're enrolled in this program, you're automatically qualified. All you have to do is, provide us proof of that, and you'll be provided a needs-based discount. Because honestly, we were concerned about that as well. We know that we have a high number of people in our community who are at a lower income level, and we certainly don't want to push them away either. But we also feel like it's appropriate for those who don't have the need to pay the fee that's appropriate, and then address access based on need in a slightly different fashion.
Follow up, Vice Mayor?
Sure, go ahead.
Thanks. I'm still uncomfortable with this change. I think we could do maybe a survey with the school district to determine family size. I really do not want to push those families away that might have, 3, 4 kids. And I'll be quite honest, my experience, we have a family member under the age of 18 who spends their summer with us every month. I don't have a problem paying extra for that person to be on the rec center membership. But, a family of 4 that is already struggling, or a family of 6, whatever, that's already struggling, does give me concern if we're not covering some type of revenue gap, and we're not dealing with a large number of families that might fit that demographic. I think that's worth some more research before we change that. And then my second question is to the families with college students. You jumped to that before I could even get there. We do have college students that live at home. And so what is the rationale behind changing to this family with the kids under 18? Again, are we seeing a large revenue decline because we've got a family with a 19-year-old that's going to UW now that still lives in the house?
Honorable Mayor and Councilor Somerville. So I'm not sure that I can answer satisfactorily all of the details that you hit. The intent is to go to children are considered under 18. So an additional family member would be an adult in the household. That doesn't mean that a person can't have an adult membership and live in the same household. Certainly there's a difference in cost. But the intent here is to identify an appropriate number of people in that dollar value for the full price membership. And the needs-based discount helps address some of what you're talking about in terms of families that are struggling. That was our assessment of how to do that better, because currently that's not how we do it. If you're a family of 6, it doesn't matter if you're struggling or not, it's the same price. The needs-based discount will enable us to address that piece of this a little bit separately, and still be able to address, what should it be. If you look at an adult couple, if you're looking on the family memberships, an adult couple is $600. And if you add 1 child, that's $220 if you were doing it at the individual rate. And so it's a much better deal to do a family of 4, even if you're just doing, 2 adults and 1 child. What we've been running into is this perceived value. We have a lot of very small households in Albany County. I appreciate that there are some that are larger, but the bulk of our households are pretty small. An adult couple with 1 child, or an adult with 1 child, or an adult with 2 children. And what we have found is that they look at a family membership, and that doesn't seem like it's appropriate for them because they're such a small household and the value doesn't seem to be there. I think this fee change does start to address that.
Vice Mayor,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was going to say, Todd, I think you were the one who had addressed, I can't remember even which analysis was it you were making in terms of the adults and youth, and it was like 2 adults. Oh, that's what it was. If you look at the individual rate, if you were 2 adults, that would be $700, which means the kids are free. Of course, we've made a separate category for adult couple, but it's the current family membership is a little bit less, but not significantly less for full price.
I appreciate that, and I'll just make a couple of comments on that. I would be significantly more comfortable if this came built with a fee schedule that came in that said we would, provide some type of hardship discount or sliding scale fee or whatever you want to call it at about 250% of the poverty level or behind or lower. SNAP benefits are only you can't make more than 130% of the federal poverty level for SNAP benefits, and frankly, at that amount, they're not going to be able to afford. Even if you give them a 30 or a 40% discount, that's out of reach for them. So I want to be realistic and support maybe a policy decision that we are trying to make the rec center accessible to everybody in the community, because there are other recreation options in the city that are much more expensive, and I want to be absolutely fair about that. To walk in for a day pass at one of the other places is 4 times the cost of the Laramie Rec Center, and I appreciate that. But I'd be much more comfortable if we did that, and if we had some data on the family memberships and what that's actually going to look like, even if that's just an analysis of our current memberships and how many people are on those that have those members. Also, I think it would be realistic to look at a policy that says, a family can be kids 23 and under. I mean, right now, college kids can stay on insurance until 26, I think. We do have those folks in our community. Thanks, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Schmackel.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I would echo Councilmember Somerville's concerns there, and I like her idea of going to the 250% on the poverty level as well. I'm curious, though, if someone could explain to me the youth membership, individual membership. I'm concerned that we have, individuals like youth. I mean, I don't understand why this is on here. I'm assuming that most youth attend with an adult that would also have a membership, in which case the adult and youth we're going there. I'm under this, a 3-year-old could have their own individual membership without adult supervision, and that's slightly concerning. I'm assuming there aren't too many 3-year-olds that are lifting weights or anything like that, but curious what the origin and what the usage is of the youth, say below 14, are for individual memberships.
Vice Mayor, if I could address that.
Go ahead.
So we have separate policies. All you're seeing this evening is the fees, and to a couple of concerns. First, about the age. It's true, we have access policies where you have to be attended by an adult. But a youth might have a membership because they come pretty frequently with one or any number of adults. It could be that a grandparent brings them, maybe they have a membership, maybe they don't, maybe they pay a day fee. But it is the case, especially in the middle school age, that we have young people who have their own membership separate from the rest of the family. So it seems good practice to me to have individual memberships, but that doesn't govern how they're able to access the facility. They have to be at least 12 to be in the facility alone. And between 12 and 16, we require that a family guardian has signed a youth access agreement so that we can easily access an adult in the event of emergency or misbehavior. And so that's how we handle that. As far as the hardship and discount, I hate to call it hardship because I think needs-based seems a little more kind. When we do our sliding fee scale for the Adventure Kids program, we do it based on DFS rates, and I believe it's 200% of DFS rates. We haven't changed that significantly in the last several years, but I would intend to use the same process to bring forward what our needs-based discount schedule will be. And I like to keep it similar. My intent is not to go with SNAP benefits. I haven't really looked into what their levels are yet. But my intent is to keep it something similar to what we currently have and figure out a discount that makes it affordable enough for families to get in. I will bring that forward to you in a resolution like we've done in the past. But that's how we would intend to do it. So I think that we certainly can have that discussion about what's the appropriate level. And if we continue to do it so that we have to see their pay stubs, we can do that. Our intent was to try and identify an entity that might be providing benefits that would make it, I guess, a less painful, less revealing process for the patrons when they request assistance. Because typically what we see is people either they really need help and they are not afraid to ask, or they're kind of in the middle and maybe they won't ask. But if they know that there's an easy process to access it, it makes it easier for them to manage it. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor O'Doherty.
So we have a situation where, sorry, I have too much feedback. Are you getting that too?
No, I think you're good.
Okay. This situation where a grandparent may have grandkids for the summer, they could buy their youth membership for a few months over the summer. So that's a case where you could have the disconnect, but it allows for that. So I like it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor O'Doherty. Are there any other questions? Councillor Somerville, or let's go to Councillor Gabriel and then go to Councillor.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. I would just point out that the Parks and Rec Board last month had some really good discussion concerning this proposed fee structure from the BRS group, and the board unanimously approved the changes. I would just submit that I think it's a good idea that we're discussing all of these various options that has come before council now, but the Parks and Rec Board as well had some pretty good discussion, but they approved it unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gabriel. Are there Councillor Somerville?
Thank you, Mayor. One further question on the families. Since we're changing it to household from a family, what is our definition of a family? If a grandparent has two of their grandchildren that live with them full time, but there's not a legal arrangement, are they going to count as a family? What's our definition?
Madam Vice Mayor, the definition is 2 adults and 2 children. Children are under 18.
In the same house.
It's moving from a household definition to a family definition.
Is there any harm in moving it to, instead of 2 adults and 2 children, to just 4, I don't know, 1 adult and up to 3 kids, or 2 adults, or providing some flexibility for that? I'm thinking again of single parents. I know lots of them that have 3 kids at home. I'm trying to figure out where maybe the sweet spot might be to make sure that we're not arbitrarily pricing these people out.
Honorable Mayor, if I could add some to the Councillor Somerville's. If you do the adult and youth and 2 children, that's less expensive than the family of 4. So you would have an adult and 3 children, which would be a less expensive option for you than the family of 4, simply because the adult price comes way down. So, I mean, I know that there's lots of ways to try to scenario this all up, but really what we've done as staff is to try to make the fee schedule as simple as possible for people to understand a little bit more, if that helps.
Thank you, Assistant Manager Fieser. I guess I'm still very puzzled. I might have an amendment after public comment. Thanks.
Madam Vice Mayor, I just please don't want to get lost in the conversation about the needs-based discount, because when we're concerned about pricing people out, that's the purpose of that in particular. And so if you have, you know, an underlying $700 membership, or, you know, whatever the total is, if we identify that they are in need based on standards that we've talked about, that would be the point at which it would be discounted from that. And that's typically what we see right now is households are part of an employer group and their household is discounted. And we don't currently have a discount on memberships other than employer-based discounts. What we have are punch passes at a reduced fee, but this would be a significant improvement from that standpoint.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from or questions from council members? Councilor O'Doherty.
I just want to point out that the consultants that came in to help recommended these changes, and they also took into account the demographics and family size, and that's the way they were leaning, the way this chart looks. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Councilor O'Doherty. Anybody else for comment or question? Okay, I can't see our attendees list. I may be able to change my view option here. Okay, so do we have any questions from our attendees putting this? I don't see any. So, Councilor Somerville, I hate to put you on the spot, but if you have an amendment.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Before I make the amendment, I want to provide some background as to why I've kind of laser focused in on this, and it's from personal experience. I've been through the situation where the rec center was the thing when my family was going through a really hard time. I kept my kids sane, and it gave them something to do. And we live in a county where 23.9% of our population lives in poverty, and I don't want to overlook that. So, Vice Mayor, with that being said, I would make a motion to postpone this until the next regular business meeting with a requirement that Parks and Rec comes back to us with a needs-based policy.
Do I have a second? City Clerk, can I second that as the sitting?
Great question, Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor, this is Councilor Schuster. I'll second it to get it on the floor.
Great. Thank you, Councilor Schuster. Okay, discussion on the amendment. Councilor Somerville.
Vice Mayor, thank you, and thank you, Councilor Schuster, for allowing some discussion on this. It seems to me we don't have any information on how many families this affects, but I do know that our Albany County School District constantly is bombarded with requests for help for families. We have families, real families in Laramie that need assistance, and I don't want to arbitrarily price them out of the rec center. And while I do absolutely trust our Parks and Rec staff to bring that policy back, I'm uncomfortable approving the fee schedule and telling people that it'll come back at some point. I don't think we do any harm in delaying the fee schedule for 2 weeks and asking them to bring that policy back. And I would certainly volunteer to help them. I think our rec center manager, Garen, is absolutely right. There are agencies and standards that we can use to make that process a lot less painful than it is in terms of providing pay stubs. And I'd be happy to provide those resources and the expertise that I have from my job. Thanks.
Thank you. Counselor Schmeckel.
Thank you. I am open to postponing here just to validate the data and make sure that we haven't lost something here, because I think that that is important, that we have a solid understanding on that. So.
Thank you. Counselor Schuster.
Thank you. Here's the really old council guy talking. I've worked with Jody a lot. She was the mayor of our community once, and I trust her that she will bring back this fee schedule. So I'm sorry, but I will not be supporting the postponement.
Thank you, Counselor Schuster. Any other comments from council? And members of the public, any comments regarding the postponement? Thank you. So let's go for a vote on the postponement.
Humby,
No.
Gabriel,
No.
Harrington, absent. O'Doherty,
No.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster, Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver, absent. That's 3 yeses, 4 noes, and 2 absent, Your Honor.
So say that again. The postponement failed?
Correct.
Thank you. So that postponement fails. So we are back to the original amendment on the floor. Any other last comments before we go to the vote? Counselor Somerville.
Vice Mayor, I really don't want to get into amending this fee schedule, but I'm incredibly uncomfortable with this. I can't stress that. And unfortunately, you know, the other council member that has children at home is not here tonight to speak to this. So I guess I mean, I could offer amendments right now to move this to a family of 6, to require a 250%, but I just don't feel like we should be amending the fee schedule, that the staff should bring this back to us. So I guess I'm not sure what to do with this at this point.
Thank you. I see, Ms. Guerin, do you have a comment?
Well, a question for you. So we've never included the fee reduction or the scholarships or needs-based assessments. We've never included those in the fee structure. Those have always been a separate part of it. The only piece that was ever included was the employer-based discounts, that kind of to promote it as a employer-based sponsorship. I will be happy to bring that back. I would also like to have a notion as to what type of a discounter are people thinking is appropriate if it's needs-based. You don't have to decide on the fly, because I certainly don't know that I can assess that for you, and you certainly probably can't either. But if there is information that you would like to have kind of folded into the that needs-based assessment, I would be happy to do that. And if you feel like there is a target that you're shooting for in terms of a dollar amount, that would be helpful as well. Because certainly, you know, our intent isn't to price people out of the market either. It's also to raise enough revenue that we can keep ourselves afloat. So we're trying to do both. And that means we have to balance both of those things, because families have to have access and they have to find it affordable enough to be appealing. And they have to know that there's support available to do it. It's certainly not in an intent to price anybody out of the market. So I'd appreciate your feedback in any form you'd like to provide it.
Great, thanks. Counselor Schuster.
Thank you very much. I would appreciate if we didn't really hash this out tonight, that we send emails to either Todd or Jody and give them our suggestions that way, because this is kind of thrown at us all at once. And so I'd like to make suggestions between those two people there, because they're the one that have to bring a presentation back to us. So I really don't want to put them on the spot right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Schuster. Do we have any other comments from council members? Councilor O'Doherty.
When we had the consultants here, one of the things we learned is that people take advantage of those adult children. So people whose adult children don't even live with them anymore are coming in. Like my family has a family membership, and so that was one of the reasons for the trying to narrow it down. I thought that I don't know where I read it. I thought they had to be in the same household, the 2 adults and 2 children. I thought that's how a family was, up to 4 members, 2 adults. Anyway, I think it would be helpful to have households, but I don't see it in there. I'm not going to amend it either. Thanks.
Madam Vice Mayor, I'll just clarify. Currently, they are supposed to be residing in at the same address, but you know as well as I do, sometimes your adult children move out and claim home base as residency, and they don't have anything to prove anything otherwise, and we don't either. So certainly we're not chasing people. We just require that if they're above a certain age, they provide us proof of residency. This would just change that, so that instead of proof of residency, it's an age-based aging out. And between 18 and about 23, many children, if they're still living at home, are often here in Laramie anyway, going to college, or they're not interested in the rec center at that particular juncture for whatever reason. So for whatever that's worth, that's how we're implementing what we currently have.
Okay, council members, any last comments? And members of the public, any comments? Okay, so let's go to a vote, please.
Humby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent, O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
No.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver, absent. That's 6 yeses, 1 no, and 2 absent, Your Honor.
An item passes. Item number 20, Councilor Cumby.
Thank you. I move to approve original ordinance number 2043, amending table 15.10-1, table of allowed uses, and chapter 15.10.020.d.5, additional standards for specific accessory uses and structures of Laramie Municipal Code as recommended by the Planning Commission on second reading in accordance with findings of fact and conclusions of law.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Gabriel. Thank you. Go ahead, Philip, if you want to get us started on this.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of council. On second reading tonight, you have before you the ordinance that would essentially eliminate the need for a conditional use permit for any daycare in a residential zone with 15 or fewer children on site. To follow up, to give you a little sense of the daycare situation in Laramie today, I checked with DFS, and this is following up from last meeting. The DFS representative told me that there's 35 licensed facilities currently in Laramie. 11 of those are those child care centers, which have 16 or over children. So those, if this ordinance were to pass, would still be required to have a conditional use permit process with them. 14 of the 35 are the family daycare centers. That's with a maximum of 15 children. And then 10 of those are these type 2 daycare facilities with a maximum of 10 children. And to refresh council's memory on kind of the background as to why we're doing this, over the last 10 years, we did the research and found that, 47 conditional use permits for these type 2 and family daycare centers had been turned in. All of them were approved. It says 46 in the cover sheet, but we actually, since then, we passed another one to make the total 47. So we're at 100% approval. In 7 of these cases, there were comments from neighboring property owners that are notified due to the conditional use permit process. But staff was able to work through those comments with the Planning Commission, and they were all ultimately approved because they were either unfounded, not backed by actual data, and so forth. So there on the cover sheet, you just have a breakdown of those conditional use permits for those daycare centers with 15 or fewer children over the last 10 years. Planning staff believes that eliminating this need for the conditional use permit will allow, it's a very time-consuming process, not just for the planning division, but also for all the other departments in the city that have to review conditional use permits. This being said, all the new daycares that fall under this category of 15 or fewer children will still need to be licensed by the Wyoming Department of Family Services, which includes a inspection by our fire marshal. That is certainly a condition that is going to be included, as you can see in the ordinance that I'll get to. And it will also eliminate the timely process for applicants. As you can see, there's only 24 of these smaller daycare centers in Laramie, so the need is certainly great for these, and any hurdles that we as a city can do to make that process more timely for the applicants, we'd like to do that. So without further ado, I'd like to jump to the actual ordinance in front of you. So that would be, pulling it up here. So as mentioned in table 1510-1, these two family daycare centers, or these two daycare centers rather, that allow for 15 or fewer children would not require conditional use permit. We'd just be crossing out that C there and inserting the P for permitted use. Now, permitted use, as we all know, has conditions associated with it that are outlined in code, and that's what you can see in section 2, which if you go down a page, these are the conditions that we're proposing to add. The use shall be conducted entirely within the confines of the property, and I should add that some of these come from our language for any home-based occupation, which this section would fall under, is that home-based occupation section. So 5B states that The use shall be carried on by the inhabitants of the property living there, no others. 5C states that the use shall be clearly incidental and secondary to the use of the dwelling for dwelling purposes, shall not change the character thereof. This requirement shall not apply to commercial properties. So again, this is for residential zones only. 5D, family child care centers and type 2 child care home signage shall conform to the sign standards of the specific section, which basically allows for a 2 square foot sign and nothing else on the outside of the property that indicates the use. 5E is an important one because this one addresses as I mentioned earlier, we did in the past have concerns from neighbors. Not many, 7 out of 47. All of them, I would say, had this as a concern, which is addressed in 5E, this concern that a daycare down the street is going to create traffic problems or parking problems on the street. So 5E is a provision for neighbors to call if that were ever to be a case with the daycare center with 15 or fewer children, that they could call on this concern, and we could, as a city, issue a notification letter stating this section of code, and it would have to be mitigated or the use would have to cease. 5F addresses parking. Minimum of 2 paved off-street parking spaces are required. 5G, and this is another one that addresses some concerns. People had the concern that a daycare would create off-site noise, and this 5G addresses that. If it ever came to a point where it became a nuisance next door that there was a child care center, then this provision 5G would also be able to be used to enforce an action on that particular daycare center in question. 5H, as I mentioned, this is very important and understood. Of course, you can't operate a daycare without being duly licensed by WDFS, but we included it nonetheless, just to be clear. Hours of operation there, 5I. We feel like this covers the bases well, 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. Of course, in the historically, I haven't come across in my research a daycare that opened at 5 a.m. But just to include it there in case there was early drop off or something like that, 5 to 8 p.m. 5J has to do with the proximity to businesses, such as adult-oriented businesses or hazardous materials. That just, those uses we just don't feel mix well. That's the provision there. And then lastly, if for some reason somebody that wants to start a daycare with 15 or fewer children can't meet one of these, that doesn't exclude them. One of these conditions, that doesn't exclude them from operating one. They would just have to come to us with a condition, with the standard conditional use permit. With that, I will turn it back over to you, Honorable Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions by council members on this item? Councilor Somerville.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Regarding item I on that list, the hours of operation, is there, I'm wondering if we can just strike that entirely. And I'm thinking about, at a lot of times, if we're trying to encourage more daycare, which we desperately need in town, people work overnight, so they have overnight daycare. They work Saturdays and Sundays, so they're utilizing at-home daycares when the centers aren't able to provide that. Also thinking specifically about our law enforcement and our fire community that are on odd hours. Is there any particular reason why we really need item I in there. And you're not talking, you wouldn't be talking about a high volume of people. So if somebody got off work at, I don't know, 11 or midnight to come pick up their kids from a home daycare, would that be really an issue or an intrusion in the neighborhood?
If I may respond.
Go ahead.
Yes, so the reason for that provision is based on historical fact and just on past daycares and common operating hours.
Vice Mayor, follow up.
Go ahead.
Is there any, do you see any issue with just striking that?
Yeah, I would say just historically, it's worked and it protects the neighboring, it protects the neighborhood basically. I would say that would be probably one of the provisions, Councilmember Somerville, that we could probably use 5K to ask anyone that wants to start a 24-hour daycare or earlier or later than those hours, that they could go through that conditional use permit.
Vice Mayor, one more follow up.
Go ahead.
Can you remind me what the fee is for the conditional use? Is it like $400?
Yes, the conditional use permit application it's broken down separately for these types. It's $135. Traditionally, for a standard CUP, it is $435. For a type 2 and family daycare, it's $135.
Is there a provision that we can waive that for that item I specifically? If they do need that variance and they need to go through the planning commission, can we put that in the ordinance to waive it?
Well, the reason we have that fee is, because we would follow this traditional conditional use permit process for that, where we would route out the application to all city departments for their review. And, that certainly that fee there doesn't compensate for the staff time that's needed, but it is there to cut into it a little bit, I would say.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other council members with questions or comments at this time? I see Councilor Cumby. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, since we already address traffic, and then we follow up by addressing noise, I'm just wondering if we need to be so specific in item I to confine it to that. And if in item, in the item that looks at noise, if we said noise or disturbance, then a person has recourse for a complaint, and we're just in such desperate need for childcare, and it may extend beyond Monday through Friday, and it may extend beyond 8 p.m. And I think that it anticipates issues that may or may not be there when we have two other items that address traffic and noise, or we could add disturbance, and then we could eliminate this specific Monday through Friday because it may only be 2 kids or 3 kids. I just think it's too specific. Item I is too specific.
That's
Yes,
it.
Council Member Cumby, that is a great question. I will say that again, if this was put in, this council or planning staff thought this would be appropriate, just given the fact that this is the typical, this has been typical of daycares in residential areas. And, you know, the conditional use permit process can also be always followed, you know, through with if they want to operate outside of these hours. I will just remind council that in our research, we've really not found anything, not found daycares that operate outside of these hours. Not saying there aren't ones that do that. We've just haven't heard them cause an issue. So that all being said, I would certainly you know, entertain council's motion of striking that, given that other provisions in that in the family child care center and type 2 child care home section would address those, if that were the pleasure of the council. I think that, as mentioned, the other two sections that refer to traffic and noise would probably have our bases covered. Yeah, just trying to protect the neighborhood as well, and just having that in there, because we are making this a permitted use. So just having an added layer of protection in there and kind of condition for operation was our thought there.
Follow up, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I think that maybe what has worked in the past, that we're facing some issues currently that are not only local but national. And we're also facing issues with healthcare providers and individuals who work in the hospital, and really about to face dramatic shortages, not only in our county, but nationwide. And so I think if it does not cause a disturbance, then maybe it would be beneficial to our community to try to be flexible and to address things as they are problematic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Cumby. Do we have any other council members with a comment or question? Don't see any hands raised. Any questions or comments from members of the public at this time? Okay. Councilor O'Doherty.
How about going to Councilor Somerville?
Councilor Doherty, I'm happy to let you go first. I have an amendment, so. Okay.
I was going to do the same thing. So,
oh, perfect. I would move to amend this ordinance by striking letter I, hours of operation restrictions for type 2 child daycares.
Second.
Is there a second by Councilor Gabriel? Thank you.
Vice Mayor, if I can just tag on to what Councilor Cumby very eloquently said, I would just let you know that the daycare that we have to use for my little guy that lives with us now, they have a 30-person waiting list right now to get in. All of the major centers do. DFS has hiked their rates to try to help centers recruit staff. We absolutely don't have enough daycare or preschools in this town, and the pandemic has changed everything. Working hours are not working hours. DoorDash and those kind of employments that are off hours and weird hours are now more commonplace. So I would appreciate the council's consideration. I live in a neighborhood with several daycares and, you know, people that watch kids overnight, and I don't really ever notice any type of disturbance. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Somerville. Are there any other comments on the amendment? Counselor O'Doherty.
I was wondering about a friendly amendment where it says, and re-letter the following items, or like, you don't renumber things, but if you get rid of I, then J should become I.
Councillor O'Doherty, friendly amendment accepted, and to redo the order as necessary.
And is that
If the second
okay?
agrees.
Is that okay with the second?
Second agrees.
Thank you. Any other comments from council on the amendment? Members of the public on the amendment, any questions or comments? Seeing none, let's go to a vote on the amendment.
Humby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent. O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver, absent. That's 7 yeses, 0 nos, and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Great, thank you. That amendment passes. Now back to the original motion as amended. Any other comments from council members? And members of the public, do you have any comment regarding this item? Okay, let's do a vote on this item.
Humby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent. O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver, absent. That's 7 yeses, 0 nos, and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Great, thank you. That item passes. Let's move on to item number 21 and Councillor Schuster.
Thank you. I'd like to state that this is second reading. The title is Original Ordinance amending various sections of Title 15-10, 15-12, 15-14 of the Laramie Municipal Code regarding R1, LR, and RR zoning districts, dimensions, standards, and accessory dwelling units. I move to approve original ordinance number 2044, amending the actions of the Title 1510, 1512, 1514 of the Laramie Municipal Code as recommended by the Planning Commission on second reading in accordance with the findings of fact and conclusions of law.
Second.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Somerville. Who do we have? Is it Mr. Teeny or?
It would be me again,
Okay, great. Go
Vice
ahead.
Mayor.
Go ahead.
Yes, Vice Mayor, members of council, this ordinance is part of the continual effort that council tasked us with to increase affordability of housing in this tough time with the housing crisis going on, not only in Laramie, but nationwide. To follow up on a couple of items that came up during council's discussion on first reading before we get into going over the changes again. I believe it was the mayor that requested kind of an estimate of how much of the single family residential housing that's currently zoned is actually vacant. So planning staff looked into that. That is that chart on page 2 of the cover sheet there that kind of gives you a rough estimate of the total amount of acreage that is designated in these zoning districts. And what's important there really is what's still vacant. So overall, we're looking at in all 3 zoning districts, there's about 450 acres left of developable land that's currently zoned within the city. And just the the rough percentages and this was again a cursory review of what we have in house on our in our GIS database. The second question had to do with the separate metering that is a requirement that you'll see coming up, and this requirement was added due to public works concern that comes along with sharing utilities. You know, just one scenario that happens more often than any other is one person paying, the other one not, the whole thing being shut off. What do we do? So that really is one of the biggest reasons, along with making these accessory dwelling units that you'll hear about later, making them separate entities in and of themselves. I will also add at this time that since the last council meeting, we did receive public comment, which is attached in the cover sheet. 2 comments. You know, one of the comments with an associated article, an opinion piece in the New York Times, was offered by Mr. Glass, and then we also had a resident comment as well, and you can see those comments. So without further ado, I'd like to jump into the actual ordinance and what it's going to look like. So I have it pulled up here. I don't know if clerk, you'd like to pull it up. Awesome, thank you. So here you can see the dimensional standards that are currently in place for the single family residential zones and what planning staff is recommending they be changed to. Again, lowering minimum lot size, lot widths, and setbacks are less restrictive on the potential developer, allowing them more flexibility on what they want to build. So I'm not going to go over those one by one, but you can see that they're being reduced substantially in some cases. But this is essentially it follows research that we've done, and as well as kind of building on what was done in the multifamily districts, the reductions that were done there. So again, this is mainly to increase flexibility for potential developers. That's what Section 1 addresses. Section 2 eliminates the garage requirement. It doesn't eliminate the garage, it just eliminates the requirement to have a garage. Developers are certainly welcome to still include them in all future development. Section 3 amends the definition of what an accessory dwelling unit means. And you can see now we're proposing that it is defined as a living quarters within a single family zone property that can be attached or detached from the principal structure. Section 4 is that section that we had some discussion on at first reading. This requires that the principal use, or this is basically saying that separate metering should be required. Section 5 is more or less an administrative amendment, really, that's just addressing some things we found in reference to where sections of code are pointing. That's what that one has to do with. Section 6 really defines what we mean by what we hope to accomplish in allowing accessory dwelling units in single-family residential zones. I'll go through these. So in districts where accessory dwelling units are allowed as permitted uses, they shall meet the following standards in addition to all other lot and building standards for the district. Number 1, the accessory dwelling unit may be attached or detached from the principal structure on the property. This means that it can be within the principal structure, it can be in the basement, it can be in the attic, it can be in the garage, but it can also be detached, a separate unit, essentially detached from the principal structure. 2, all applicable lot and building principal building type standards for the district shall apply. 3, only one ADU, I'm just going to go with the acronym here from here on out, only one ADU is permitted per detached one-unit dwelling, because there are certainly lots in the city that are large enough to accommodate more, but at this point in time, we're making that one access ADU possible. Number 4, accessory dwelling units must have a separate access from the principal structure. Again, this is, not only a safety concern, but also another way to ensure that these ADUs are, self-contained and separate from the principal structure, separate unit. Number 5, again here, accessory dwelling units must have separate utility access from the principal structure. Item 6 and 7 and 8 have to do with the size. Number 6 has to do with the building footprint, and number 7 has to do with the actual square footage. So I'll say number 6, the building footprint of the accessory dwelling unit may be up to 40% of the building footprint of the principal dwelling unit, or 600 square feet. So essentially up to 600 square feet, whichever amount is lesser. So you won't see a detached ADU larger than, with a footprint larger than 600 square feet. Item number 7, the maximum square footage of an ADU shall be no more than 1,200 square feet. ADUs must have a minimum square footage of 220 square feet. So this would allow for a 2-story ADU if it were to be attached, 600 square feet on each floor, essentially making it 1,200 square feet. This 1,200 square feet has to do, is required of ADUs within the principal structure as well. So that should be noted. Number 8, the unit size limitations found in the above section shall apply to ADUs within the principal structures. So that is what I just mentioned about ADUs that find themselves within the principal structure. And the ADU may not exceed the height of the principal structure. Next, this is, again, a really an administrative adjustment to the table of contents in Chapter 15, 10 for the use regulations. That's all you see here. There's there was just some cleaning up that we wanted to add on to this amendment, to this ordinance change. With that, I will turn it back over to you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have any members of council who have questions regarding this item? Councilor O'Doherty.
I still can't understand the metering thing, and I kept trying to find the original ordinance to see how it read, because it seems contradictory to me in this sheet that we're reading. It's like accessory units have to have the same meter unless they are accessory units, and then they need a different meter. So I can't understand what that what that piece was going for, and I can give you the number. It's section 4 on the sheet that has all the whereases. It's the ordinance.
Yeah, I can
So-
clarify if
Yeah.
I may, Councilmember O'Doherty. So section 4 reads the principal use and the accessory use. So that's current in code where we don't have a provision for ADUs. This is for sheds, garages, that sort of thing. So essentially, under current code, if it's a separate garage, a separate building, accessory use, accessory to the principal use, then we want it on the same meter because it's the same person paying. Right? So, but then when you have an accessory dwelling unit, which is, it's a completely different animal, so to speak, when you look at dimensional standards and everything, because the ADU is going to have to follow the dimensional standards of a principal building. That's one of the requirements. Whereas we still have accessory buildings in the dimensional standards as well, which have to do for uses that, such as garages and sheds that are accessory to the principal residential use. So I know it's a little bit confusing, but essentially it is the one owner versus the two owners that would occur if an ADU were permitted on a property.
Okay, I would like to not have that in there, so I should have worked with you before to come up with the right amendment, but I'll bring it for third reading. Thank you. I think if I have a basement apartment, it's easier to have it on one water meter, so that if something's happening downstairs, like says there's 30,000 gallons used in a month, that I would know something's going on downstairs, so that if the owner has an apartment within the house, rather than replumb things to put in a different meter, I think that would make things more expensive. So, but I'll bring it for next reading. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council members with questions or comments? Okay, members of the public, do you have a comment or a question on this item? I don't see any. Just want to remind folks that this, especially Councilor O'Doherty, usually on third reading, we go to the consent agenda. So, we can certainly bring it back on the floor or just keep it on the floor for third and final reading on this. So I don't think that's going to be an issue, but just thought I'd throw it out there as a comment. So if we could go to the vote on this item, that'd be great.
Gumby,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Harrington, absent. O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schmeckel,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Weaver, absent. That's 7 yeses, 0 nos, and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Great, thank you. That item passes. Moving to item number 22, any public comments this evening? Okay, thank you. Item number 23 has to do with future council work session topics and upcoming meetings. Do we have any council members wishing to add to our work session topic list? Okay, I don't see any hands raised. I will, before we go to adjournment, let you know that we'll probably take, and City Clerk, how many minutes do you need between the end of the meeting and and the start of the executive session to get us rolling?
Ideally 10 minutes to allow the broadcast team to exit the building without rushing them out the door would be great. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. So no heavy boots involved. So, all right. So if we go to item number 24, we will adjourn and I'll call on Counselor Schuster to do that, but we'll come back for our executive session. I've got 8:42, so how about 8:55 to come back for executive session? Okay.
Okay.
So see y'all in executive session, and Counselor Schuster, I'll call on you for item number 24.
Thank you. I move we adjourn to go to executive session. Wyoming State Statute 16-4-405, small letter A, Roman numeral 7 for land. Wyoming State Statute 16-4-405A, Roman numeral 10 for personnel.
Second.
Second.
There a second? Thank you. And City Clerk, do we need to go to voice vote on this, or can we just adjourn?
You can do voice vote or hands raised, Mayor.
Yeah, hands raised or voice vote for adjournment. Thank you.
Yay.
Yeah, thank you. Meeting is adjourned.